Oh, I want to bring in Kristen Gibbons-Fedden, a former prosecutor, is now an MSNBC legal analyst, and just want to get your reaction to where Necklace is headed with this part of her cross-examination, taking everybody back into that hotel room.
Well, I think it's there's a couple reasons why she's doing this. One, she wants to highlight all of the inconsistencies. And what that does is it reinforces the narrative that Stormy Daniels is a liar. She is not to be believed. But I think the other issue, the other reason why she's doing this is because, the day before when Stormy Daniels was testifying, I think there was some feeling that there was this power imbalance. So for years, we're thinking this was consensual. And even on the stand, it made there seem like maybe it wasn't as consensual as it seemed, which could put Donald Trump in a negative light, particularly given all of his, given the prior civil litigation where he was found to be liable for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll. So I think that it plays several roles. And even though that's not necessarily on the stand right now, it certainly could be if Donald Trump takes a stand. So I think the secondary reason why she's doing this is to show there wasn't really a power imbalance. This was purely consensual, if indeed it happened. And then I think the third reason why she's doing this is because I think she really wants to highlight that Stormy Daniels is in the business of fabricating sexual encounters. That is the nature of what pornography is. It is a fabrication of a sexual encounter. And I think what she's doing is she's saying, that's your profession. That's what you're doing here, and that's what you did to Donald Trump. You fabricated a sexual encounter. And I think that feeds into that narrative of the witch hunt that kind of Charles was talking about earlier, because if in fact she fabricated this sexual encounter, then it looks like that Donald Trump is really the victim of, extortion, or this really is a witch hunt and that everyone is out to get him. I think that not only, as Charles pointed out, is beneficial for him as the candidate, but I think it also plays into giving him, as the defendant, some empathy with the jury. It makes him look like he's the victim of extortion. But I do think that it really overlooks the broader context, right? Because regardless of the veracity of her story, if Stormy Daniels is a liar or if she's telling the truth, the fact remains is that she possessed information that at that time could have damaged Trump's candidacy for presidency. So I think this line of questioning, while it really does a lot to undermine her credibility, I think it really misses the point because, the overarching issue here is whether or not Donald Trump falsified business records to hide that story, whether true or false.
So Kristen, why would the prosecution then ask that level of questions with her when she was on direct?
Well, when you're presenting a case to the as one of your guests had pointed out, the prosecution still has to have a story to tell. And so they can't pick and choose what they want to say. They don't want to put Stormy Daniels on just to say, hey, this happened. Hey, this is what I was paid. No, you have to present the witness as a full person, good, bad, and ugly. And I think the prosecution not only did that to tell a full and complete story, but they also did that, I think, because a lot of the direct examination that Stormy Daniels testified to didn't necessarily make her look like an ideal witness. And so by doing that, the prosecutor was also making sure that the jury felt like they were being authentic. Because as a former prosecutor, I can tell you that I could stand up in front of, the jury at the end in the closing argument and say, listen, I gave you the good, the bad, and the ugly. These are the individuals that Donald Trump chose to surround himself with. These are the individuals that he picked, not the prosecution. And I gave you the full story. And here's what it really narrows down to. And then they'll go ahead and talk about she had that story to tell and that Donald Trump didn't want her to tell that story. And he went at all costs to make sure that that story did not get out prior to the election. And that's really what this boils down to. And that one of the things that he did to make sure that that story didn't come out was he falsified business records. And that's what it really boils down to. Okay. If the prosecution didn't get out that whole story and the defense did, which they would have had the opportunity to, it would make it look like the prosecution was hiding something, which could really make the jury turn against them for that reason alone.